Commander Kang stood on the bridge of the Nexari scout ship, his 4 eyes scanning the stars. The ship moved silently through space, far from home. They were looking for new worlds to claim for the Nexari Confederacy. Captain Kim. "I see something strange," said Officer Lee. Her thin fingers moved across the glowing control panel. "Unknown ship at the edge of our sensors." Captain Kim walked over quickly. He was tall for a Nexari with dark blue skin that shimmered in the dim light of the bridge. "Show me," he ordered. A hologram appeared, showing a distant object. It was hard to make out details, but it seemed oddly shaped. "What species built that?" Kim asked, his antennae twitching with curiosity. Officer Lee checked her data. "Unknown, sir, not in our records." "Look at those energy readings," said Officer Park from his station. "Very basic, probably some new spacefaring race." Kim clicked, his mandibles together making a sound of amusement. The Nexari had ruled this sector for centuries. They often found new species trying to reach the stars. Usually these encounters ended with the Nexari taking what they wanted. "Move closer," Kim ordered. "I want to see who our new neighbors are." The SAO scout ship changed course. As they approached, the mystery vessel grew larger on their screens. "That's bigger than we thought," Lee said, surprise in her voice. What had seemed small was actually massive. The dark ship was angular and sharp, not smooth like Nexari vessels. Most concerning were the many projections along its hull. "Those look like weapons," Park said quietly. "Many, many weapons," added Officer Choi. Kim felt the first touch of worry. "Scan it fully." After a moment, Lee reported, "Sir, its hull is made of materials we don't recognize. Power output is enormous, much higher than our first reading suggested. They must be masking their true power," Kim realized. "This is no primitive ship." "Should we retreat?" Kang asked. Kim hesitated. Retreating without information would shame him before the Confederacy. "No. Try to contact them first." Officer Choi sent standard greeting signals on all frequencies. The bridge crew waited tensely. Minutes passed with no response. "They're ignoring us," Kim said. "Or they don't understand." Suddenly, all screens on the bridge changed. A message appeared, written perfectly in Nexari script, "HMS Thunderchild. United Earth Defense Force. Halt your approach." "How do they know our language?" Choi gasped. "Sir," Park's voice shook slightly. "The ship is activating targeting systems. They're aiming at us." Kim felt cold fear spread through his body. "Earth? Humans? Those primitive mammals from the Death World?" "Checking records," Lee said quickly. "Yes, humans from Earth. Our last intelligence said they had just reached their own moon. This cannot be right." Another message flashed across their screens. "You have attacked human colony ships. Prepare to be boarded." Kim's antennae went flat, against his head. Last season they had raided what they thought were independent mining ships in the outer systems. The ships had strange designs and minimal weapons, easy targets. "Those colony ships belong to them," Kim whispered. "We attacked their people." The human warship moved with surprising speed. It was no longer just sitting in space, it was coming directly toward them, its massive form blocking the stars. "Evasive action," Kim shouted. "Full power to engines." The scout ship turned sharply, its engines blazing as it tried to escape. "Sir, they're matching our course," Park reported. "They're faster than they should be." "Send an emergency signal to the fleet," Kim ordered. "Tell them we have encountered hostile humans with advanced technology." Choi worked frantically at her station. "Signal sent, but, sir, they're jamming our communications now." The bridge shook as something hit their shields. "That was a warning shot," Park said. "They could have destroyed us." "They want us alive," Kim realized. "They want information." Through the viewports, the human warship loomed larger. It was enormous, dark, and threatening. Nothing like the primitive vessels Nexari intelligence had described. "All this time," Kim said quietly, "we thought humans were weak because they came from a harsh world. We never considered that surviving. Such a world might make them stronger than us." The ship shuddered again as the human vessel fired another warning shot. "What do we do, Captain?" Kang asked, fear evident in his voice. Kim stared at the massive warship. We run, and we pray to the stars that we can outpace them long enough to warn our people. Humans are not what we thought they were, and now they're hunting us. The scout, ship distant whisper streaked through space, engines burning hot. Captain Kim gripped his command chair as the ship lurched to avoid another blast from the human warship. Maximum speed, Officer Han, Kim shouted. The ship shuddered around them. The engines cannot take much more, Han replied, her fingers dancing across the controls. We were not built for extended pursuit. Officer Lee studied her screen with growing concern. Captain, the human ship is maintaining pursuit without strain. Their power readings remain stable. Kim hissed between his mandibles. This was impossible. The humans were supposed to be centuries behind Nexari technology. Their world was just a backwater planet with too much gravity and aggressive wildlife. Yet here they were, being hunted by a human warship of unimaginable power. We need to warn the fleet, Kim said. Officer Choi, keep trying to break through their jamming. Choi worked desperately at her communication station. I cannot, sir. They are blocking all frequencies. Their technology it's like nothing I've ever seen. The bridge rocked violently as another warning shot passed close to their hull. Damage. Report, Kim demanded. Officer Park checked his readings. Minor damage to our outer hull. They are not trying to destroy us, Captain. They are hurting us. Kim stood and walked to the main viewport. The massive human ship, the Thunderchild, followed them relentlessly. Its dark form reminded Kim of the predator birds on his homeworld that would chase smaller creatures until they collapsed from exhaustion. The asteroid field ahead, Kim pointed. We can lose them there. Our ship is smaller, more agile. Officer Han nodded and adjusted their course. The distant whisper dived into the field of spinning rocks and ice. Massive boulders tumbled around them, some larger than their entire ship. This will slow them down, Kim said with confidence. No vessel that size can navigate this field at speed. For a moment they seemed to have gained distance. The human warship disappeared from their rear sensors. The bridge crew allowed themselves to breathe. I think we've... Officer Park began. Captain... Lee interrupted, her voice rising in alarm. They're still following. They're predicting our path somehow. Kim rushed to her station. The display showed the impossible. The massive human warship was weaving through the asteroid field with precision that defied belief, avoiding collisions by margins that even the best Nexari pilots wouldn't attempt. How are they doing this? Kim whispered. Officer Lee pulled up information on her screen. According to our databases, humans evolved as pursuit predators. Before they had technology, they would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. They're applying that instinct to space combat, Kim realized. They don't need to outrun us. They just need to follow until we make a mistake. Another alarm sounded. They're scanning us, Park reported. Deeply scanning. Our stealth systems aren't blocking them, Captain Kim thought quickly. The Nexari had relied on their advanced stealth technology for centuries. No species had been able to penetrate it before. Emergency protocol, Kim ordered. Shut down all non-essential systems, silent running. The lights dimmed as the ship's power systems went into minimal mode. The usual hum of the engines faded to almost nothing. Set course for the Terrace Nebula, Kim instructed. The radiation will mask our heat signature. The distant whisper drifted silently into the purple clouds of the nebula. Gas and dust swirled around them, creating a beautiful but deadly maze of color. Have we lost them? Kim asked after several tense minutes. Officer Park checked the sensors. I don't know, sir. Our sensors can barely penetrate the nebula. The crew waited in the dim emergency lighting. Every noise, every creak of the ship seemed amplified in the silence. Officer Lee worked quietly at her station, reviewing data. Her face grew increasingly troubled. What is it? Kim asked her. I've been researching humans, sir, she said. Their home planet, Earth, is classified as a death world. High gravity, extreme weather, thousands of predator species. The things that evolved there had to be incredibly resilient just to survive. And, Kim prompted, and humans weren't just survivors, sir. They were the apex predators of their world. They dominated everything through intelligence, teamwork, and, she hesitated, through their ability to never give up a hunt once started. A slow, steady beeping began from Park Station. His eyes widened with fear. "Captain," he said quietly, "they found us." Through the viewport, the massive shape of the HMS Thunderchild emerged from the purple mists of the nebula. It moved with deliberate slowness now, like a predator that knows its prey is cornered. "How?" Kim whispered. "How did they track us through? Our stealth field and the nebula's radiation?" No one had an answer. The human ship grew larger in their view, weapon systems clearly visible and ready. "They're opening a channel," Choi reported. The main screen activated, and for the first time the Nexari crew saw their pursuers. A human female with dark eyes stood on a bridge far more advanced than their own. "This is Admiral Yoon of the HMSE. Thunderchild," she said in perfect Nexari language. "Your running ends now." The small village of Silverbrook nestled quietly in the misty mountains, unaware that its peaceful existence was about to shatter. Elena Martinez, a local archaeologist, with haunting green eyes and a determination that burned brighter than most, had been tracking a mysterious artifact for years. The small golden medallion she discovered in her grandfather's old trunk was more than just a family heirloom. It was a key to something far more dangerous. On a cold autumn morning, strange shadows began moving around the village's edge. The first sign of trouble came when old Farmer Thompson's livestock disappeared without a trace. No blood, no tracks, just empty pastures and a bone-chilling silence that made villagers whisper and look over their shoulders. Elena knew something was different. The medallion she carried seemed to pulse with an energy that made her skin tingle. Her research had uncovered ancient legends about a hidden power that could awaken something dormant in the mountain caves. Most people laughed at her theories, but she understood there was more to the world than what people could easily explain. As night fell, the first creature emerged. It wasn't human, wasn't animal, something in between that moved with unnatural grace. Tall and shadowy, with eyes that glimmered like broken glass, it walked through the village streets. Windows shut, doors locked. People held their breath. The local sheriff, Mark Rodriguez, was the first to confront the strange being. His bullet seemed to pass through it like smoke, and when it turned its gaze on him, he felt a coldness that reached deep into his soul. Something ancient was awakening, and the village was its chosen ground. Elena realized the medallion was more than just an object. It was a compass, a signal. The creature was hunting something, and she was somehow connected to its purpose. Her grandfather's cryptic notes suddenly made sense. This wasn't just a random invasion. This was a reckoning generations in the making. Neighbors began disappearing, not violently but quietly, as if they simply walked into the mist and never returned. The village transformed from a peaceful community to a place of whispers and fear. Children were kept indoors. The elderly spoke in hushed tones about old stories their grandparents once told. Mark and Elena formed an unlikely alliance. She brought the knowledge of ancient myths and he brought practical survival skills. Together they started piecing together the puzzle. The creature wasn't just randomly attacking, it was searching for something specific that had been hidden in Silverbrook for generations. As days passed, more creatures appeared. They moved like shadows, silent and precise. Each night they took something, not just people but memories, fragments of history, pieces of the village's soul. Elena's medallion grew warmer, its inscriptions becoming clearer with each passing hour. The final confrontation would happen in the old mountain cave, where generations of local families had kept their deepest secrets. Elena understood now that her family wasn't just a random collection of people. They were guardians. Guardians of a secret so profound it could change everything humans understood about their world. When the moment came, it wasn't about fighting. It was about understanding. The creatures weren't monsters, they were messengers. Messengers from a world that existed alongside human reality. Waiting, watching, preparing for something bigger than anyone could imagine. The village of Silverbrook, would never be the same. Some would remember fragments of what happened. Others would forget completely. But something had shifted. A balance had been restored. And at the center of it all stood Elena, holding a medallion that now seemed to pulse with a life of its own. As dawn broke, silence returned to the mountain. The creatures vanished. The village looked normal, almost, but those who lived there knew something fundamental had changed. Something had awakened, and its story was just beginning. The diplomatic conference in Geneva looked like any other international meeting. Suits, translators, and carefully prepared speeches. But something was different this time. Elena Martinez sat quietly in the back of the room, her green eyes scanning every movement, every subtle interaction between world leaders. The creatures from Silverbrook had changed everything. Governments around the world now knew something unusual was happening, and they were terrified. Military officials whispered about strange encounter reports. Scientists struggled to explain phenomena that defied normal understanding. Ambassador Catherine Chen from the United Nations was leading the emergency session. Her calm exterior masked a deep sense of urgency. She understood that what happened in the small mountain village was just the beginning of something much larger. The diplomatic community needed a plan, and they needed it fast. Mark Rodriguez, now working as a special consultant, presented evidence collected from Silverbrook. Photographs, witness statements, and fragments of the mysterious artifacts told a story that seemed impossible. The creatures weren't invaders from another planet. They were something more complex, beings that existed in a parallel reality, waiting for the right moment to make contact. During a critical moment in the conference, one of the shadow creatures suddenly materialized in the conference hall. Diplomats froze. Security personnel reached for weapons that seemed useless against such an entity. The creature didn't attack. Instead, it simply observed, its glass-like eyes scanning the room with an intelligence that was both terrifying and fascinating. Elena understood what was happening. This was a diplomatic encounter of a completely new kind. Communication wasn't about words or treaties. It was about understanding a form of existence that humans had never encountered before. The creature spoke, not with words, but with images and emotions that flooded the minds of everyone in the room. Memories of Silverbrook, glimpses of its own world, and a warning about something much larger approaching. It showed them fragments of a potential future, a world where the barriers between realities would completely dissolve. Catherine Chen became the unexpected hero. Instead of panicking, she approached the creature with a calm that surprised everyone. Her background in anthropology and international relations gave her a unique perspective. She understood that diplomacy was about listening, even when the conversation seemed impossible. Mark watched carefully, his hand near his weapon but not threatening. He had learned in Silverbrook that these beings weren't interested in conflict. They were messengers, bridging two different worlds that had existed side by side for millennia. The conference room transformed into something beyond a typical diplomatic space. It became a place of first contact, of understanding. Representatives from different countries who moments ago were arguing about trade agreements and political boundaries now sat in stunned silence. The creature shared complex information about environmental changes, cosmic shifts, and the delicate balance between different planes of existence. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. Humanity was standing on the edge of a massive transformation, and they needed to be prepared. Elena's medallion began to glow softly, connecting her to the communication happening in the room. She realized her grandfather's research wasn't just a personal obsession. It was preparation for this exact moment, a bridge between human understanding and something far more complex. As hours passed, the initial fear transformed into curiosity. Scientists, diplomats, and military experts started asking questions. The creature responded not with words but with intricate visual and emotional communications that challenged everything humans thought they knew about communication and existence. The diplomatic conference became a turning point. No official statements would be released. No press conferences would explain what happened. But the leaders in that room knew something fundamental had changed. The world was no longer a simple place of human-defined boundaries. When the creature finally departed, it left behind a sense of profound possibility. Mark looked at Elena, and they both understood that their journey from the small village of Silverbrook to this international conference was just the beginning of a much larger story. As diplomats began discussing next steps, one thing became clear. Humanity was about to enter a new era of understanding. An era where the impossible would become possible, and the boundaries of reality would be forever changed. 6 months after the Geneva conference, the world looked different. People felt it, even if they couldn't explain why. Elena Martinez stood at the edge of a research facility deep in the Brazilian rainforest, watching something extraordinary unfold. The shadow creatures had become intermediaries between human civilization and their own mysterious realm. They didn't invade, they communicated. Scientists like Elena discovered that these beings were more like translators of universal knowledge, bridging gaps humans had never understood before. Mark Rodriguez now worked as a special liaison, helping governments understand the complex interactions with these new entities. His military background proved useful in creating protocols for peaceful communication. The creatures showed no interest in conquering. They wanted something far more complicated: mutual understanding. Research centers around the world began experiencing strange phenomena. Equipment would suddenly display complex mathematical equations that solved long-standing scientific problems. Quantum physicists found themselves receiving information about dimensional interactions that challenged everything they knew about reality. Elena's medallion had transformed. No longer just a family artifact, it now functioned like a communication device connecting her directly to the shadow beings. She could understand their language, not through words, but through intricate emotional and visual exchanges that felt more like downloading information than traditional communication. The first major breakthrough came when the creatures revealed information about environmental restoration. They showed humanity methods to heal damaged ecosystems, reverse climate damage, and create sustainable energy systems that worked in harmony with natural planetary cycles. Governments and scientific communities were stunned by the complexity and simplicity of these solutions. In Silverbrook, the original village where everything started, people lived with a quiet understanding. They knew they were at the center of something massive. Children born after the initial encounter seemed different, more connected, more intuitive. They could sense things adults struggled to understand. Catherine Chen, now heading a special international research team, worked tirelessly to create frameworks for these new interactions. Her diplomatic skills proved crucial in helping different nations understand that this wasn't about competition, but collaboration. The shadow creatures didn't look like traditional aliens or monsters anymore. They appeared as fluid energy forms that could adapt their appearance based on the emotional state of those around them. They were teachers, not conquerors. Mark discovered that military strategies became obsolete. Traditional weapons meant nothing against beings who could shift between dimensional spaces. Instead, humanity needed to develop new skills: empathy, deep listening, and the ability to perceive beyond physical limitations. Scientists found that the creatures were helping humanity unlock potential within their own species. People started experiencing heightened intuition, faster learning capabilities, and a deeper connection with their environment. It was like a global evolutionary leap was happening quietly, without dramatic announcements. Elena's research revealed that these interactions weren't random. They were part of a cosmic cycle, a natural progression of understanding between different forms of consciousness. The shadow beings had been watching, waiting for humanity to reach a certain level of collective awareness. Global conflicts began to decrease. When nations realized they were part of a much larger universal system, territorial disputes seemed meaningless. The creatures showed how interconnected all living systems were, not just on Earth but across multiple dimensional planes. The research facility where Elena worked became a hub of extraordinary discoveries. Young scientists from around the world came to study these new interactions. They weren't just studying alien encounters, they were learning a new way of perceiving reality. Mark often joked that their journey from the small mountain village to this global transformation was like a strange dream, but it was real. Humanity was changing, expanding its understanding of what was possible. As the sun set over the Brazilian rainforest, Elena watched a shadow creature dissolve into the landscape. It wasn't goodbye. It was simply another form of communication, another moment of connection in this new, extraordinary world they were all discovering together. The reckoning wasn't an invasion. It was an invitation, a chance for humanity to grow, to understand, to become something more than they had ever imagined possible.